We're live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Every Point's a Winner, or as some people call it, EPAL. And we're here for the Easter weekend. Whatever you're doing, hopefully you're having a beautiful sojourn with your family or friends or loved ones. And or whether you're going away, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a shitload of football that we need to really pay attention to. Um, yeah, Easter's very important for some people and mainly important for the people that don't have to work. And the ones who don't have to work are really going to enjoy their rugby league. But we're going to try and get you some money over the long weekend. You're going to need a nice bankroll to last all the way into Tuesday. And we do have a little, before the West Tigers preview today, we do have a little special momentum here or memento, should I say, that the beautiful man Patrick, who lives downstairs, and he gave to me out of the goodness of his heart. I helped him move a little bit of furniture, so what? But Patrick gave me something that's out of his archive, and it means so much to the West Tigers supporter, and even more so to the Western Suburbs Magpie supporter. You're going to really enjoy that a little bit later. But let's get cracking and get some money, talk about the games, talk about points of view, see how we're going. Hopefully you've tuned in. A big shout out to Peter Connors, to Scotty McLeod, to all the boys there in Oztag in New Zealand. Haka, haka, haka. Komati, komati, kaura, kaura, komati, komati, kaura, kaura. I don't. That's about all I know of it. But the Warriors have certainly got a big game this weekend in their home territory. So that's going to be a very interesting game, because last time they whacked the Broncos over there in New Zealand last year, around about round 17. But let's get on to the first match, and it is tonight, Thursday night, Seagulls and Dragons at 7:50. So that's a little bit earlier than usual. Let's have a look at the team lists. Hopewadi, has he grown into the fullback role yet? I have my question marks. He's an amazing player, but he's still got a lot to learn, if you ask me. Ins and outs, Caleb Navali is in. Jake Arthur is in. He's got a bit of ability, and Jason Sarver's back, so that's a big plus for Manly. Sione Finer is now with the Dragons, is he? Okay. How many Finers are there? And King Togia is also in. Christian Tuapoloto, that's a big loss for St George. He's out. Aaron Shoup or Shop and Josh Aloyini is out for the Manly boys. In fact, Pines Park, they get all the penalties fairly early, and so Dragons may have to do it on the back foot here to win this game. Just have a looking at the matchups. And there's a big forwards then, Ethan Bullimore and utility forwards, Jake Sinkum, Jake Travojevic, all the Ben, who we always have as our ATTS, anytime try scorer. He hasn't gone over recently, so he's costing us a little bit of cash. Those who followed us last week, you did really, really well. And all the multis I gave you, and I'm sure you collected big. We did really well here on EPAW, and we made up for that horrible wet weekend that destroyed our tips a couple of maybe 3 weeks ago now. But it is supposed to rain tomorrow for Good Friday, or it's going to be a good day. Sorry, so tonight it's supposed to shower. I just put the clothes out, did a big load of washing, so I'll be paying attention to these clouds that are coming over. I'm expecting a big game here from Tommy Talau, in fact. Ruben Garrick played pretty well last week, even though they're on the losing side. And Cherry Evans, I'm expecting a big game from him. I do like Toby Couchman. I had him in the ATTS, as you know, last week. let's go and have a look and see if we can scour out some value. And Dylan Egan, congratulations for going over for your first try in the big league. The young kid there coming off the interchange bench last weekend, but he's doing the same this week. So let's flip over the page and go and have a look at the ATTS. And head-to-head, why have I got that game coming up? We're up to the Manly match. 158 Manly. So they're hot favourites to beat St George 240. Interesting the way the bookmakers have swung that around. I'd probably have it a little bit closer than that, but anyway, I'm not a bookmaker. Manly are running 8th and St George 10th. 3 wins to Manly, 2 to St George, and they've both had 3 losses each. So last time they met in round 15 at Four Pines Park, it was 30-14. Fairly close, but a good win there to Manly. Let's go down to the anytime try scorer. Jason Saab's leading the market here at $1.65. Of course, these guys, you can put in a 3-leg multi. They usually go over, but they're not going to give you any value. So you really need to find value and then have multis around them. Just looking at Figai or Fine, as they call him. So many pronunciations are very difficult now with all the Pollies in the teams and the beautiful Maori people. And let's have a look here. Ben Travojevic, Daly Cherry Evans, they're all good value. Do we start off with St George as the banker? Remember, if you're going to have the banker, do your 2 or 3 legs with it and then mix up your 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th selections, because that's the way we've been picking up the bickies. Canberra did so well for us last weekend, and hopefully they continue on this weekend. Let's have a look here. Clint Gutherson's pretty good value, $2.50 for a guy that's a regulation try scorer. He was for Parramatta. You can always rely on him. Fine is skinny at $1.80 being on the wing. That Terrell Sloan, $1.85. That's probably the best value there. And he has been scoring with every couple of matches, but he hasn't played every match. So Terrell Sloan may be the value there, but we'll come back to him. Let's find a banker. Do we go Valentine Holmes? I know that Kyle Flanagan killed us because 2 weeks ago we had him as a stand-up with him and Cookie, and then on the weekend he scored at nearly 4-1, and that blew us out of our multis. Ethan Bullymore, $4. I've got a feeling he's going to go over, Luciano Leilua coming off the bench, I'd imagine. Lachlan Ilias hasn't gone over recently. Dylan Egan, he's only going to get a small run. Jacob Little, every time I have Jacob, he comes on and he doesn't score. Every time I don't have him, he'll get up and score. So he's only scoring once every 2 matches. Maybe this match is the match he comes on and scores. Not quite sure, but I don't really want to have my money on someone that's only going to get maybe 30 minutes of the game. Really want someone that's going to be on there for most part of the game to be in our mainstay multis. So it's most part of the game to be in our mainstay multis. So it's really throw a blanket over this field. I'm going to stand out Clint Gutherson to score. Clint Gutherson at $2.50 as the banker. Now, these multis, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th leg I'll give you, I want you also to multi them up as well. So we're going to chuck in Dale Cherry Evans as the 2nd leg. I'm not staying with Kyle Flanagan. I'm sorry, brother. I'm going to go a little bit wider here. And I'm going to, of course, I can't leave him out. I'm going to chuck in Ben Travojevic. But we really need some speed in there for the fourth and fifth leg. So I'm going to come back here to, let's chuck in Valentine Holmes. He's another one that's been getting under my guard, but this time there's no Tuapoloto, so I reckon he might go himself a lot towards the try line. And all for the fifth leg, Tolatu Kola. So that's Manly and St George done and dusted. I'd like to tip Manly. I'd like to barrack for St George, being an old St George, growing up in the St George area. My whole family were crazy St George supporters, and I'm really going to stick Manly here. I think they need to atone. Yes, they haven't got Turbo, but without Tuapoloto, I think that's going to make a big difference. So Manly here, we're going to have Manly 1-12. If you're a desperate multiplayer, I'd also have St George 1-12, but I couldn't see Manly running away with this 13 plus. So Manly is the standout at 1-12 there. Tomorrow, this is the Good Friday game. It's the Bulldogs and South Sydney. Bulldogs coming up skinnier than Farlap at $1.30. Actually, Farlap's quite skinny at the moment. His furs are down at Melbourne, all cased up there in glass. But getting back to away from the comedy, South 350. There's pretty good value there. Our champion legend that swims down the pool here, Arthur. We're going to try and get him on the podcast when he's free. He's a crazed South Sydney supporter, and he's really believing that it's time for Bulldogs to lose a game, and he sees this as South causing a massive boil over at 350. He thinks it'll be tight, but South are going to come up with something freaky, according to Arthur. A big shout out to Arthur, Steve Lammy, Peter Connors, John Polly, if you're there, and also Adriana Demure, rocking out in her little free world on her balcony there at her mum's place. And let's have a look here. Last time they met, it was a victory in round 4 to South Sydney. Canterbury hadn't quite got their act together at that stage in round 4 of 2024, but South played exceptionally well. So let's have a look at the anytime try scorers here. Jacob Carraz is back, so he's very skinny. He's leading the market there with Montoya, the winger for Bulldogs, and the other winger, Blake Wilson. Interesting how they frame the markets up now, that most of the wingers, you can't get even money with them. If you do, get on. But yeah, they're really getting tighter and tighter, the TAB and the sports bets, giving the odds we really need. I think Bronson Sherry's good value here. Yes, he didn't go over last time. He was damn close. But I think he's the value here at 225. And looking outside of him, Jai Gray, you're still getting value with little Jai. He scored for the last 3 matches, and he only missed one about 4 matches ago. So 275, there's good value there, and he scored that penalty try against St George. Tilly Tupanua is pretty good value at 325, but we don't know how much time he's going to get on the field now that Mr. Kikau is back, and also Burton. Interesting to see their level of fitness. Obviously, they've been training and repatriating at the same time. Be interesting to see how they go. We stood out Reed Marnie last time and he let us down, but you're always going to get good value of Reed Marnie. And people are onto him a little bit like Harry Grant, darting out of dummy half and trying to score that way. So he can be elusive sometimes, especially from a bomb. And our legend, is he going to play here? I can't quite see his name. Kurt? Or is Kurt Mann? No, Kurt Mann is 7-1. You've got to take him with a grain of salt because you don't know how much run he's going to get. But he's a champion. 7-1. We might chuck him in as our 5th leg. But Cody Walker's back as well. But you've got to hope and pray for Cody Walker. He can bring out moments of brilliance, and then he can sort of not score for a couple of games. Latrell Mitchell, I think it's time for him to score. Let's put Latrell Mitchell to score, and we're going to chuck in Bronson Sherry as the banker, Latrell Mitchell. The third one, I'd love to chuck in Matty Burton, first run back. But we're going to go for Jacob Preston here at 350. He's scores sort of once every 2 or 3 matches, but I think the value at 350 is the way we want to go here. And outside of that, I usually stand out Connor Tracy. I mean, you could go back to Carraz. You could have any of these guys, Wilson, Carraz, Montoya, any of your Bulldogs wingers, if you wanted to tighten it up a bit. But I'm going to stick in Connor Tracy as my 5th leg at 205 because at least there's a bit of value there. All right, and I'm also tipping Canterbury in a narrow victory. I think that may go down to the wire, that one. I really do. I think Souths are going to lift, and they were a bit stiff there against the Cowboys up in was it the Northern Territory they played, or was it over? I can't remember now. It's too long ago. 1 week flies by with trying to use this mad identical memory I've got. Anyway, it wasn't in Sydney, that's for sure. I just can't remember now. Let's get on to the next match. And Dolphins versus Melbourne. God, this one's also interesting. $4.30 head-to-head for Dolphin. $1.22, even skinnier than the Bulldogs, is Melbourne away from home. Are they going to get the run that they did against Warriors last week? I don't think so. I think Dolphins, Wolfie's really got the Dolphins fired up, although they're running 14th and Melbourne are up the top of the ladder with Canterbury. I think you got to look past that. Though if you look back to the last time they played, round 25 was near the end. Dolphins got whacked 48-6. That was Park, so there's a difference in that it's this time it's at Suncorp Stadium. They could get a little bit of the run of the green or rub of the green, and I think Dolphins could play very well here. I don't know. I couldn't tip them to beat Melbourne, but yet again, I think they may really cause a bit of some headaches for Melbourne. Looking at the anytime try scorer here, Kane Bradley, $1.45. He's skinny there. Fa'alago, interestingly enough, has been put onto the wing here for this game. Pappenhausen, $1.80. He's back to his odds-on quote. Elise Qatar, part of his skip, hasn't crossed for a couple of games now, but when he did, we had him as our banker. I'm probably going to lean into him again. Elise Katoa at 240. I just feel that they're you could basically choose any of the good forwards with Melbourne. We had Blore 2 weeks ago. Of course, we let him go on the weekend, and there was many try scorers, but Blore went in at really good odds, so that was a little bit hurtful. But you could have any of those big fellas, but this time Blore's only 260, so people are onto him. Munster, although he didn't look like scoring last week, he could be a bit of a bolter there. Cody Nicarima let us down, and I did promise Jake Averillo that I wouldn't leave him out again. Usually I have Jake Averillo, and I cost myself dearly by throwing out Jake and putting in Cody Nicarima and getting about another $1.25 for my value, and the value slapped me in the face because he was still good price, Jake Averillo. So looking at our other legs there, I had Max Plath last week. Geez, he's up at $11. That can't be right, can it? Just go to the top of the page here. Yeah, $11. 11-1 Max Plath. Geez, that's we might chuck him in as the fifth leg there. Daniel Saifidi seems to be back, 850. The question is, how many tries are Dolphins going to score on Melbourne? Probably not that many, and that's why some of those big forwards are good price if you want to go for the value. Let's stick in Jake Avarello again. Let's do that. Herbie Farnworth, I usually put him in with Avarello, so let's go Avarello as the banker, Herbie Farnworth. Last week we had Jerome Hughes and they pulled him off. I know he's just come back from hand surgery, but he had a little bit of a stinger with his shoulder. He landed awkwardly on it. And so it'll be interesting to see how much game time he gets. You could also chuck in Bostock to score for the Dolphins at 220. But as I said, and Tabuai Fido is still, Hamiso is still 220. So that's good value there. But let's chuck in one of the shorter ones. You can go Xavier Coates or Pappenhausen, $1.50, and Pappenhausen at $1.80. Jermaine Asako. I don't want to keep on leading with the Dolphins here. And Harry Grant only goes over once every 4 or 5 matches. So let's just stick in Herbie Farnworth and Jacob Barillo for our third and fourth. And our fifth, let's stick in Josh King for Melbourne, the big fella at 550. You're going to get value there. So tipping Melbourne there, and I would honestly say 1 to 12. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a major upset there. That would not surprise me at all, being the long weekend and Dolphins playing out of the skin. So I'm really only going to stand out Melbourne 1 to 12. I don't think it's going to be a thrashing like Melbourne have had the last week or so. So there your multiples there. Just mix them up and you'll be right. So we've probably got 3 for Dolphins and 3 for Melbourne if you chuck in one of the shorter price wingers. So let's have a look here for Warriors, and the Saturday match is Warriors and Brisbane. Warriors at $3. This is in Auckland, folks. And as I told you the last time they met, it was Warriors 32 defeating Broncos 16. That was round 17 where Broncos went through that funny phase. Hopefully they're not going through a funny phase again because they were towed up a little bit last week and by Roosters. So to everyone's surprise, will they bounce back? That's the question. Let's have a look here and go straight to the anytime try scorers and look for a bit of value here. Selwyn Cobbo, you can have him $1.70. It's still nice and wide. Some of these players are $1.65, $1.50. Let's just put him on the side for a second and look. Jesse Arthurs, he's going to be another prolific try scorer, is $1.70. But let's go a little bit wider and chuck in. I'm going to go because it's in. I've noticed in his home ground, depends what side they're playing, left or right. Hopefully they put him back to where he was scoring the tries. And Ali Luatawa, 275, he's going to be my banker because I really think Warriors are going to lift here. Don't think they'll beat the Broncos, but would not be surprised in the least, more so than Dolphins causing an upset as well. So with the Warriors here, Luke Metcalf, you're a legend. You didn't let me down last week, so I'm going to put you as the second leg. Now, we need to go a little bit wider here. I'd love to put in Channel Harris Tavita as my 5th and 6th leg. If we've got a bit of money from those first 2 or 3 games, let's do that as a 6th leg, multied up with the other boys for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and 5th. Tanner Boyd's looks like he's going to get a run here. Payne Haas, well, you take him with a grain of salt whether he's going to go over or not. It has to be the game where Warriors are going to fall away for Payne Haas to score. Billy Walters, you don't know how much of a game he's going to get. And let's just head back towards the Brisbane side here. Adam Reynolds, how much is that hammy playing up with Adam Reynolds? I don't really want to. I'd love to put him in for value at 375 there, but I'm going to go a little bit wider here. Got a feeling Ben Hunt might go over. He hasn't scored for quite a while, but he's only 290, so I'm not the only one that thinks he can't score here. Katoni Staggs, goodness gracious. Every time I have him, he's just one of those guys that are very hard to catch. Very, very, very hard to catch. He hasn't scored for the last 2 games. No, I'm going to go back to Gehamat Shibasaki. Shibasaki. So LA Tour is the banker. Shibasaki is my second. Then we'll come back to the shorties with Selwyn Cobbo, Jesse Others as my fourth and fifth. I'd love to have Dean Mariner as a smoky, but we're going to go for Chanel, Harris Tavita, and outside of that, you can nearly chuck in Corey Pikes to go over from dummy half. Well, I'll leave it up to you guys, but I think Warriors are going to really play well here. If I could tip a draw, I'd tip a draw. Wouldn't surprise me. But Brisbane are a little bit filthy. I think Madge will get him more on song. Just depends whether that Maori spirit is lifted, and I'm sure it will be like it usually is at Warriors. So wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of upsets this weekend, and this could be one of them. So I'm just going to have Brisbane 1-12. But as a multiplayer, I will tell you the best value there is to have Warriors 1-12. And if you're a crazy Brisbane supporter, go and put on 13 plus if you dare. But I'd honestly have 1-12 both sides there. So let's move to the next match as we shift through. And this is a very important game on Saturday. Wow. Penrith on the verge of falling off the cliff like Thelma and Louise. They're this close from going over in their car. And Roosters, you just don't know who's going to turn up for the Roosters. Geez, didn't they turn it on against the Broncos last week? So let's have a look here. The last time they played, it was 32. Roosters 38. Penrith 32. Crazy match. It was round 2. That was another boil over that one. And let's look here at what was the head-to-head then? I just have to go back a page. The head-to-head, so the market has got them at $1.62, the Penrith Panthers, and Sydney Roosters at $2.30. You could lead out with Roosters there, I believe. Let's just go back the page here and see who's ins and outs. I've got a feeling, yes, I do have a feeling here that Penrith have got back Mitch Kenny. Now, that's going to make a big difference to the defence. Let's go here and have a look at the team lists and ins and outs for Penrith. Maverick Guy's back. Jack Cole's back, so that's a good plus for them. And Mitch Kenny. This could be the game where Panthers turn it around. Townsend's back. Well, he had a shocker last time before he either got injured or suspended. Ethan King, Lasalu, Rodwell, Makatar is back for the Roosters. Billy Smith's out, of course. He had a blinder last week. So I think this is going to be a bit of redemption for Penrith here. I truly believe that. But that freaking hell, they need it. They seriously do need to stand up here. How many games have they got to win? They've got to win their last 10 or 12 games of their last 14 to 15 games. It's not a good and although they could creep into the 8, They have to at least win 10, I believe, 10 in this competition to sneak into the 8. So they can't afford to lose here, Penrith. I'm going to tip them one more time because I think Dylan Edwards needed that run last week. And the fact Mitch Kenny's back, that's why I'm going to have that proverbial gun to my head and go Panthers to fight back here. But I really think we can spin try scorers both ways. I don't think it's going to be that crazy defence that Penrith always have, especially with those missing players from last year. So let's have a look here. We'll go from off this page and go back to the anytime try scorers for Penrith and Roosters. Dominic Young, of course, has come up at $1.90. That's not too bad. That's pretty good. $1.90. That's good value. Think of that, and we might shove him into 5th position there. Casey McLean, $2.50. That's not bad either. Pretty good value. Anything over, for me, anything over 2-1, 5-2, when they should be closer to odds on. And you know they're like prolific try scorers or they're regular try scorers. That's the value there, I believe. Sorensen's back, as we know. Liam Martin was so gassed last week from all of the fence that I think they took him off at one stage. Brad Schneider will probably get a run. Victor Radley, hopefully you're wearing your headgear, Victor, because we can't continue to see you get your head knocked in every time and HIA week after week, week after week. Nat Butcher, I can't even mention his name. Although I just did, now I feel the pain of Nat Butcher. Last week, 7-1, and I threw him out after having him the week before against South. So Lord have mercy. Okay, let's have a look here. Nafahu White's good value. How much will he get game time? Now that, is it Lindsay Collins that's come back? In any case, he may not get the full run there. Let's have a look here. Liam Martin's 4-1. Is he going to have to do all the tackling again? Probably not with Brad Schneider back. So let's at least have maybe two on each side. Mark Nawazi or Nakatawa Nawazi. I like to call him Mark Nawazi. It's just a lot easier to get off my tongue. We're not going to stand him out. We're going to stand out. I really think Casey McLean will go over here at 250. Have him as the banker. Casey McLean. Dylan Edwards for my second leg. I'm going to chuck in a short one here. Dominic Young, I still think he's valued at $1.90. And going outside of that, I would have as my fourth leg Nawakata Nawazi, Mark Nawazi, and is Blaze Talagi going to score here and redeem himself? Or Nathan Cleary at 375. Let's chuck in Nathan Cleary as our fifth leg. I'm going for value. I don't care. And I think Penrith, as I said, 1-12 there in a very, very close one. I'd be surprised if Roosters put the sword through them. I think with the defence back, with Brad Schneider coming back and the other boys, I think Penrith 1-12. Yeah, no doubt. Let's get on to the Sunday matches before we wrap it up. But we do have a little, not a special guest, but we do have a memento here given to us by Patrick, the Irishman from downstairs. Hopefully you're tuned in, Pat. I'll send you the link and you can have a little bit of a laugh. But thanks to you, and it was a beautiful gift, and I'll never forget it. I'll make sure it's up in the cupboard where I'm not going to break it because I am clumsy. If you've ever seen Chevy Chase in any of those vacation movies, well, that's me. Always was as a teenager. Clumsy, big, lanky, fast forward, tripping over. I think I nearly broke. I think I nearly broke my brother's or my sister-in-law's nose. I was awkward. I didn't really like kissing people to say goodbye to them. How do you feel about that? And I just thought, oh, I'll give her a quick one. She's turned, I've turned, and I nearly broke her nose. My nose went whack, whack into her. Lucky I had an old footballer's nose, but she went down like a sack of spuds. I decided never to kiss her goodbye after that because my brother lived away from home and he brought her down one time, but so clumsy. Okay, let's get on to this match anyway before we get right off topic. Let's go to Gold Coast versus Canberra. And head to head here, it's Canberra is $1.70. Gold Coast very skinny here at 2.15. What are they smelling that I can't smell? I'd be giving Gold Coast on the previous performances 3-1. I'd be starting them at 3-1. Maybe they know something. I don't know. Okay, let's have a look at the anytime try score. See if we can find a bit of value here. Where is this one? It's up in the. It's up in the Marathon Stadium. Where is it? Let's have a quick look, see where it is. It must be Gold Coast. Home. It's up in yeah. What do they call it now? Citrus Super Stadium. I wonder what's so super about it. Desi has may need to turn into Superman to kick some of those Titans up the butt and pick them up and fly them away. They were awful the last couple of weeks. But anyway, I think that's really skinny there. I truly do. I don't know why they're seeing there may be an upset. We may have to look at the team lists here, ins and outs. Let's have a look. Jojo Fafita, he's been threatening to come back every time I've got to change because he's usually one of my bankers, Jojo Fafita. He's been missing the last couple of weeks with some niggling injury. Palaluli is back. Palalula. Alec Winiecki and Isaac for Foul Mazualali. And Tino is in as well. Yeah, they're really lost without Tino F or Tino Fazamawali. How the hell do you say that? Fa Masuwa Luali. Too difficult. Zach Hosking is in. Danny Levi. So no changes to Canberra there. I don't know what they're sniffing here. And Brock Gray is out after being suspended, I'd imagine, or facing the judiciary. So let's go to our TAB page and look for the value here. I'm going to stick with the guys that have been collecting us money for the last 2 weeks at least. I'm going to stick with them and just see which ones we can intertwine. Hudson Young, bang, there's your banker. 260, I told you. You've got to shoot for 5-2. And if the thing is with Hudson Young, sometimes you score once a match, sometimes twice. So let's stand him out. Jaden Campbell, I think, is going to make a little bit of a comeback here. Just been a little bit lost the last couple of weeks, but he went over twice previous to that. And Tino F, good value there at 4.25. Let's chuck in Tino F, both for more. Hopefully he goes back to his normal position, just off the edge there. When they faced him up against Valentine Holmes, it did not work. Val Holmes stood him up a couple of times against St George. So both for Moore, you can have him as a third leg, but I'm not that keen on. I really am not that keen on going hardcore with Gold Coast. So we're going to have Huddy Young and the Jojo Jafita. Both, you can have either both for Moore or Tino F. I would check in Tino F, leave Bo not to score for this weekend. And then I'll probably come back on doing the program on Tuesday screaming that I didn't have him. But Huddy Young, definitely. Sebastian Chris has never let us down. And for Canberra, Xavier Savage is just a little bit skinny at $1.75. Let's chuck in Matty Nicholson at 2.90. Either Matty Nicholson, I'll let you decide, or you go Timoko. I think Nicholson's been scoring tries at ease. And so I think have him for the fifth leg. Jaden Campbell's just too hit and miss at the moment. Until he gets his game on song, I'm probably going to throw him out this week. There you go. Canberra, I think, 1 to 12 and 13 plus here. Even though it's at Gold Coast home, though you think Desi will have them playing in their right positions. Let's go to the next match. Oh, my Newcastle Knights. They're all here. I need to speak to you. This is your season on the line, guys. And against Cronulla, who are hot and cold, but Cronulla could just run riot here. I don't know what you're going to do, Newcastle Knights, to come back from that loss against West Tigers last week. I've already bashed them up enough. I can't keep on bashing up my side, but let's have a look at the head-to-head. It's back at Marathon too. You need to stand up. You players that have been paid all that money, best. Caleb Ponga, yes, you're missing one of the best players in the game in Dylan Lucas, and we still don't know whether he's in this side or not. Let's have a look here. If we go back and have a look at the team list here for both the sides. Is he in? Gag, I didn't have much of a Greg Marju. I can barely mention your name. Tyson Gamble's going to play facing up against Nico Hines. Very interesting. Frizzell, Crossland, didn't have a great game last week. Thomas Kent. You forwards have got to do something here. Yeah, you're going to be up against Talakai, who's a freak of nature, and big Aiden Fanua-Blake, but you really need to stand up. And McGuinness will tackle all day. I don't know. I think I'm seriously. In my heart, I want to tip Newcastle, and I'd love to see him bounce back. And for me to get this wrong, but I'm going to stick out Cronulla here at either 1 to 12, mainly 1 to 12. I'm saying, and a bit of guts and glory shown from Knights, who have not scored in 2 matches. They had the bye a couple of rounds ago, but they haven't got a point. And this is your point to prove here, Newcastle Knights. Let's go. I'm just still having a look at the ins and outs here. Cogger's back in. That could make a good difference. They're giving Jackson Hastings a run finally. Schiller's back. So they may play a little bit better. I freaking will hope so. Let's go back to the previous page and work out who we're going to have as our anytime try scorer. Can you believe this match? I think it was won by a field goal last time, 19-18 in round 24. Cronulla doing the Newcastle Knights 19-18 in 2024. So 310 head-to-head Newcastle and $1.38 for Cronulla. We're nearly finished, folks. We just got the Monday game to go and our little memento to show, and then we're going to wrap it up as soon as we can. So stay with us. Hopefully you've written all those try scorers down in your little notepads. So let's go to anytime try scorer. Samuel Stone Street, $1.75. A little bit skinny. Ronaldo Molitello hasn't got over for a while. He's the same at $1.75. Britton Nakora here at $2.60. I think they're going to mark up on him this time. I truly believe the forwards will mark up on him. Guy Pearce-Paul should play a little bit better than what he did last week. But your forwards have to lift against these big fellas. Hazelton went over started playing against Manly, and he scored a great. He's good for one thing, like an Aden Fanua-Blake on the burst near the try line, and very hard to stop the big unit from going over. So looking at this here, geez, there's so many try scorers that haven't scored for quite some time, especially looking at the Newcastle Knights here. It's quite a shame. Bradman hasn't scored for 2 matches, but he really hasn't had his team supporting him. But he had an off game last week, very, very much unlike him. Teague Wilton could be value here at 325. Braden Trindle, 325. But I think you're going to be marked up, Braden, here. So let's go with someone that I don't usually stand out, but sometimes he's in our multis. Let's go with William Kennedy to score here at 260. William Kennedy as our banker. And then we're going to have second, third, fourth, and fifth selection and multi them up, not just all going into William Kennedy. I'm going to have Teague Wilton to go over. He's a beast at 325 for Cronulla. Let's chuck in Bradman Best because you're getting value for the third leg at 350. Fletcher Sharp, I'd love to chuck him in. I may entertain him as a sixth selection, but I think the veteran of the side, Dane Gagai, needs to stand up here. And at 425, you're going to get good value. So there's your try scorers there. I would like to also chuck in Talakai. I think Talakai is going to score, if not this week, next week. I'll be entertaining that one as a side bet. Watch out for him. But as I said, I would like to see Newcastle retaliate from all the bashings they've got and bashings from one of their biggest fans. But I can't see it happening. Cronulla 1 to 12 there. If it's Cronulla 13 plus, Newcastle need to seriously pack up their bags and think of what they're going to do with Dylan Brown next year, and forget about 2025 because you just cannot afford to not play better than what you played last week. It was D grade, possibly E grade, and that's the worst I've seen them play in my 3 or 4 years supporting the Knights. Let's go back to home again here. And for the very last match, we have West Tigers versus Parramatta. Now, here's what I wanted to show you. This gentleman, a lovely man, Patrick Robinson. Thank you so much. Ex-school teacher, a gentleman and a scholar. If you ever need anything, Patrick, give me a call, mate. Give me a text. I'm just up a couple of above you. But Lidcombe Lager was you're not going to drink this, put it this way. It's collector's item. It's honest. It's interesting here. Why has it got honest violence? Honest violence for the Western Suburbs Magpies. Yes, West Suburbs, the Magpies used to love to brawl, and there was nothing better than going to Lidcombe Oval on a Sunday against Manly, and there was a couple of brawlers for Manly, and especially when was it Ken Arthurs started buying all the West Tigers supporters with their money and the non-salary cap they had, and they bought all the good West players, including Cooper, and they got quite a few great players. Did they get Dorothy as well? I think they may have. How disgraceful! But this is a classic. On the bottle is Dallas Donnelly, a legend of that time, a legend player, a legend brawler. But let's have a look at it, and it's the Western Suburbs Magpies. Hopefully you can see this. There's a little bit of glare coming in off the window there. It's Dallas Donnelly, and up the top there, honest violence. You couldn't call a bottle of beer honest violence, could you? What sort of honest violence do you have? Oh, that guy hit me, so I'm going to hit him back from the old Magpie days. But there you go, you West Tiger supporters. A rare bottle of beer. Thank you, Patrick Robinson. Love you, mate. If you ever need any more help, I'm just a phone call away, okay, or just a text message away. Western Suburbs Magpies there with Dallas Donnelly and Honest Violence. There's the Magpie there. Thank you, Pat. That's going to be in my heart forever. I know if West Tigers doing well, you'll hear Pat going, go, go, go downstairs. Let's get on to the game so we can wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it's the West Tigers versus Parramatta. So this is yet again the replay of the wooden spoon. Seventh Tigers on the ladder here, and with 3 wins and 3 losses. Parramatta have 1 win and 5 losses, and that 1 win, of course, was against St George, one of their main rivals throughout the years in the 70s. Let's have a look here and head to head. I just got to go back a page. NRL. Okay. So head to head, West Tigers $1.70, Parramatta $2.15. I don't know. It was good to see Dylan Brown go over and collect our bickies last week. Hopefully, all you guys listened to me. That Dylan Brown was going to score, and he was one of the rare try scorers for Parramatta. But I honestly would have them a little bit wider than $2.15 Parramatta, just because they won that game a couple of starts ago. Last time they played, it was round 2 at Combank Stadium. It was 32 Tigers, 6 to Parramatta. That was round 2, but of course the playoff for the wooden spoon, Parramatta put the sword through the West Tigers, and West Tigers got the spoon again. Not this year, fellas. Not this year. Let's go down to the first try scorer, or not first try scorer, any ATTS, anytime try scorer. Sonny Taruvia, very skinny now, $1.65. He's been going over virtually every match. That is what you call a prolific try scorer. And Stafford Toa, he did well for us last week. We're going to stand him out again. $2.75. We got good value of him last week. He was over the odds. Let's stand him out. Stafford Toa at $2.75. Epic Coruscant, I think, is going to go over here. He only scores once every 4 or 5 matches, and whether he gets the full run, I think he may here. Mitchell Moses is back. This is the big plus for Parramatta. Do we chuck him in? Is he back to his full strength? Let's chuck him in for a bit of entertainment. Let's chuck in Mitchell Moses at $3.50, and going a little bit wider than that, Kidiona Kotoga is 4-1. Talon De Silva for the West Tigers, $4.25. How much game time will he get is the question. Why do I think Terrell May is going to go over here? Something's eating at me. Terrell May. He's missing the inch, the chalk, the dust, whatever you want to call it, of the try line by that much the last 3 or 4 games. Let's put him in. 5-1. Let's open up your account, Terrell May, for the West Tigers. Chuck him in. Dylan Walker, I think, is going to have a big game here as well, but I don't really want to have him as a try scorer. So I'd rather go a little bit wider and say Sione. And this is a controversial match because there's no Lockie Galvin. We know what happened over the last 3 or 4 days. Adam Dewey went over last game, but we've got Apicorosa as well. We've chucked in Mitchell Moses, and although I want to put De Silva, I just don't think he's going to get the game time. And PARLAY is at 6-1. That's pretty good value. Let's chuck in Sione Fainu at $7.50. Something's telling me Sione Fainu. So Terrell May as your 4th leg, and Sione Fainu as your 5th leg. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up. On behalf of Patrick Robinson and the amazing Honest Violence, beautiful gift, Patrick. I'll never forget this. I'll put it with my little West Tigers scarf from 2005 when my beautiful wife was alive, and it was a special year for both of us because the West Tigers won with Benji Marshall and Prince and the boys, and her Sydney Swans also won the competition as well. So in a year of a very painful year health-wise for Lizzie, it gave us something to dream on of the West Tigers and the Sydney Swans. Gave us a bit of uplift. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on Any Point's a Winner for episode number 11. Best of luck, best of Easter celebration for you, whatever you're doing. Drive safely. If you're going to have a few beers, just go next door like me and just have one or two. If you're driving, don't have any. Just keep your orange juice. Next time, get your friend to drive you and you get into the, if you like, a little bit of alcohol, wine, spirit, whatever you're drinking. All right, guys, for now, we'll see you and best of luck. May the best sides win. I do think there's going to be a couple of boilovers this weekend. Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Best of luck. See you from Axel. Please subscribe, like, comment, share. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's not going to cost you anything. And these big hands, if you don't, they're going to crush you. All right, till next time. See you later, guys. Bye.